Hi, I'm Lauren, a mom, former teacher turned children's book author, and your host who joins special guests each episode as we share our top kid-lit picks for sparking hard conversations the easy way. Yep, that means everything from tackling bullying and out-of-control anger to celebrating diversity, inclusion, and leading with kindness, plus so much more. My whole mission of my own children's book series, Blooming Rose, is to provide social and emotional support tools for in and out of the classroom, and this podcast is my way to expand that mission even further. So stay tuned as we dive into this week's topic on the Blooming Books podcast. Okay, hi guys. So our special guests today are two of my favorite mom bosses in our West Houston area. Balancing sweet treats and sweet kiddos is Sugarberry Cookie Shop owner Aydee, Deaton, and head snackstronaut Hayley Von Frank of Space City Snacks. Ladies, welcome, and thank you so much for being on our podcast. We'll share how to connect with each of your amazing businesses at the end of the episode, but I know you both wear so many hats, and today is about wearing the Mama Bear hat, a hat that no doubt comes with so many roles in itself, including an advocate. So can you tell me each a little bit about you and your kiddos? And Hayley, we can start with you.
Okay. Hi. So I have two kiddos. I have a 6.5-year-old. Her name is Evelyn. She is neurotypical, and then I also have Timothy, who's 4.5, my little Tasmanian devil. He is on the spectrum, and I think he also has ADHD, but we're in that process. So we're kind of at the beginning.
Yeah, 4.5 is still...
Yeah, we're still at the beginning phase of learning all the things. But we're here for it, and we love it, and it's fun, and terrifying all at the same time.
I feel like as a teacher, a former teacher, I feel like the more you can just be aware and embrace it and step in early. I feel like there's so many parents that try to put it off or kind of deny it. And it's like, look, if you start when they're the younger, the better. And
early intervention is the way to go. Absolutely.
Okay, and Aydee?
Hi, I am the mom of a super cool, almost 15-year-old.
Oh my God!
I know, it seems like I'm not even old enough to have a 15-year-old.
That's crazy because you're 21.
I know, basically. So my son has cerebral palsy, epilepsy, and he was also born with a congenital heart defect. So we kind of have like a really broad spectrum of a lot of medical complexities, but he's just overall like an amazing kid. He currently uses a wheelchair. He's nonverbal, so he's nonverbal, but he still has a lot to say. Mm-hmm. He uses a lot of facial affect, and he also uses a communication device to speak. So it's funny because he's nonverbal, but he's got a lot to say, and he makes himself very known.
Yes, I love all of his pictures, like his facial expressions, like he just has the biggest smile, and he's always like looking up so adoringly at like someone that he's interacting with, usually his mama, right?
Yeah, well, he loves his people. He has his special people, and he for sure he's a teen. So like he goes through his mood. So we get a lot of like side eye pictures, but then we also when he's
my favorite.
Yeah, so when he's in his good teen moods, he's very loving.
Oh, that's all teenagers, right? Mm-hmm. A little bit scary, a little bit sweet. Okay, so let's get into some silly and random rapid fire questions just to get to know you guys a little bit more and lighten the mood. So the first question I kind of thought of this morning is that we're all work from home mamas. And what is on in the background when you are making cookies or when you are doing your concoctions? What do you like? Like, is it classical music? Are you like super smarty pants classical music, or are you?
I am like an all over the place person. I think right now, currently, if I'm by myself, it's all Taylor Swift. If I'm like with my mom, because my mom speaks mostly Spanish, we're like jamming out to like music in Spanish. Right now it's like rodeo season.
Oh yeah.
So right now we've been all about all the country whenever I'm in the kitchen with my bakery assistant Nicole. So like it just kind of depends who's in my kitchen and like what my vibe is.
So you are music though?
Oh, for sure, music. 100% music all the time.
Hayley?
I'm not music. I'm a book, like audiobook lady.
Audiobook. That's a good idea.
Yeah. So,
or a podcast. Yeah,
or a podcast. But usually for me it's audiobooks because I love to read. There was a big chunk of time where I was a mom with little kids. Yeah. Like there was no time to like do anything for myself.
Or use your hands, right?
Or right, exactly. Like sit down and read a physical book. So like once I really like because there's like this weird stigma about audiobooks. I don't know why, because it's still a book, in my opinion.
Yes.
So I finally like tried one for the first time, and I was like, changed my world.
Yeah.
So that's usually what I'm reading. I love fantasy. I'm like an escape to read girly, so it's usually like a fantasy or a sci-fi. I also dabble, like I have a book club, so like I also dabble in different genres. Yeah, just with some friends. Like we just want to try out like new genres and new authors, and then we talk about like, did we like that? And the last book we did not like.
Oh no.
But anyway, so yeah, that's usually what I'm doing.
Yeah. I like to listen to podcasts and music when I'm out like driving or weeding the garden, but I always have to have the TV on just as like background noise. So I usually do like HD TV or, you know, something where I don't really have to dial in, but like I still feel like they're my teammates, you know, since I work alone. So I'm like, all right, team, what are we doing today? We're renovating a house and writing a book. Okay, let's go. You know, so maybe it's that. I don't know. Okay, so we're going to Aydee, you're up first. You are the Sugarberry Cookie Lady, HGTV star. What is your favorite type of cookie? You know I had to throw that in.
It's Food Network.
Oh! Did I say HGTV?
You've got HGTV on the brain, that's why.
You're on it's an HGTV cookie crossover. Okay, the Food Network. If you were to build a house cookie now, okay.
A gingerbread house cookie could be a
Yes!
We should pitch that to HGTV.
There you go.
That,
on my to-do list.
okay, we're doing it. You can give me a little bit of credit by letting me eat some of the scraps. Okay. What is your favorite type of cookie to eat? Because I know you probably have preferences as far as decorating, but what do you like to eat?
I'm a chocolate girl. If it's chocolate, I'm there. So we have like our brownie cookie. I'm all about that. The s'mores are the classic.
S'mores is to die for. Like that's my favorite.
Yeah, and then sometimes if I just don't feel like just getting like sticky, like I'll do just our classic chocolate chip. I'm a chocolate person.
Yeah, your s'mores cookie is amazing. What is your favorite guilty pleasure show, book, or podcast?
Oh my God, I'm about to get weird.
Let's get weird.
And it can also be your own Food Network show.
My guilty pleasure is like trash TV.
Yeah, reality TV.
Yeah, it just is. Like if it's like the Real Housewives, I'm there for it. You know what it is? I feel like my life is like boring.
That's what I tell my husband because he worries about me watching so much reality TV. I said I like to watch drama, so I'm not drama.
Yes, I feel like my life is just like so like basic, like boring, and I just need. I like the drama, but I like drama on TV. So like if it's a Real Housewives, if it's like the Kardashians, like I like it.
It's like validating. Like my life is good.
I'm
like,
normal. It makes me feel normal.
Yes.
Like look how high maintenance they are. You've got it good. Okay? So are you the neat freak or the hot mess in your relationship? Because I've learned there's usually they always marry each other, right?
I love Hayley's laugh.
I think Hayley knows the answer to this question.
I do.
If you just spend like 5 seconds with me, you can guess who I am. So I'm married to a former Marine. Well, Marine, because once a Marine, always a Marine.
Yeah.
Right? But I'm married to a Marine. Very like organized, like put together human. And then there's me.
Yeah. Like, right? Didn't they always marry each other?
There's the complete opposite. But I just love that he just kind of goes with the flow. And he like just knows how I am. I'm like, you wanted this,
you have to
okay?
accept it, right? It's a balance. They balance.
Yes.
Yeah, we definitely balance each other out. I am like the most like irresponsible. No, I'm not irresponsible. Well, I am. I'm not. Yeah, I'm a hot mess. I'm a hot mess express.
Yeah, you're irresponsible when you can be.
Yes.
I mean, as an adult, you have to be responsible, but you know, whenever you cut some slack, you can.
Yeah, I am. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm fun. I'm a fun time.
Yeah, well, that's
you know
for
what
sure.
it is.
I don't
My
think
husband and I tell my husband this all the time. You need me.
Yes.
Because your life would be so boring without
He
me.
would have
You're
to watch
his reality.
He would have to
TV.
watch reality TV.
Yes.
Right.
I was like, I make your life fun, but then like he makes my life like structured because otherwise I would just be like a paper bag, like a plastic bag blowing in the wind.
So my husband's opposite. He's opposite of me. He's in finance. He's numbers guys. I'm a word girl. Like he thinks, you know, very dry kind of wit and humor and stuff. But like every time when I used to teach, like that's what he misses about me being in the classroom is like coming home and gossiping. He's like, well, what happened today? You know, like it was always like some like little drama story going on in the school. And he's like, gosh, now you don't have anything to talk about, you know, about.
The cows have stories.
We've got cows and we've got a lot of drama.
Now
It's all animal drama now. Yeah. Okay, Hayley, your turn. You ready?
No.
Okay.
But yes.
What is the last concert or performance that you went to, or one that you would love to have gone to or want to go to?
I have
Are you a
for all of
Swiftie?
them. I enjoy Taylor Swift. I am not a Swiftie. I love all of it. I love all varieties of music. Even country's my least favorite, but I'll tolerate it. But I'm a Broadway girly.
Oh.
So when I was thinking about this question, I immediately thought of like, what musical did I see last? And I saw the MJ musical. So it was about Michael Jackson's life.
The music in that is
Oh my God,
awesome.
It's fantastic. The person that they cast, because it's like Michael as a kid, Michael as a teen and an adult, and it like tells his life, and they were all so amazing. And the choreography was like, anyway, I just love
That one sounds really good. Yeah.
I love musicals.
Okay. I know you're an exceptional writer. You're an English major, right?
Yes, I am.
You can tell.
You can tell when she writes.
Right? When she writes, and we'll talk about Space City Snacks in a minute, but like just your titles and captions for everything, I'm like, chef's kiss.
When I was growing up, I wanted to be a food critic. So
You
I guess
could.
that's kind of like
Yes.
wading through now,
Yes.
manifesting it kind of.
But the way you describe things, like the flavors of things, I'm like, gosh, that sounds
And
good.
just like the wit.
Yeah.
Like she's so witty.
So if you were to write a book, what topic and genre would it be?
So I actually started writing
A cookbook?
No, I do have a family cookbook.
Yeah.
Not for sale, but like I could give you a copy if you wanted. But when I was in college, I wrote 2 books, or half of 2 books, because I never finished because ADHD. But I had one short story compilation, and it was based off of the Beatles song Maxwell Silver Hammer.
Oh, I never heard that one.
It's on Abbey Road, I think. But anyway, it's about this kid that goes around killing people with a hammer.
Oh, I love true crime.
It was
yes.
like right after I watched, or right before I watched Dexter.
Yes.
So like that whole, so that influenced me to write that. And then I also had like a young adult thriller book about the mafia and this waitress that inherits some old customer who's like real mean to her, all of his money because he had no family because he escaped from the mafia, and it was super cool, but I never finished it.
Oh my gosh.
I want to know that
Can
story.
you finish it, please?
I want to.
TBD.
Yes. Coming up next on the Blue and Box podcast is author Hayley Von Franks. Okay, so last question. What is a weird hobby or talent you have or you would like to have?
I would love to know how to knit.
Yeah.
I think it's like my hands are always moving, and I have a lot of nervous energy, and I'm always doing something like fidget. Yeah. So I watch people knit, and it just is so satisfying to watch because they don't even like know that they're doing it. But it just feels so calming. Like I feel like I'd be so calmed to do it, and then you get like a cute blanket or like something out of it. Is that silly? But I don't know. I just have no skills in like anything crafty or creative.
Well, I don't believe that.
Like art wise, like
Yeah.
I can't decorate a cookie to save my life. I have taken so
Cookie
many
decorating
cookie
is so hard. Like you are an artist. Like,
yes,
literally to
Yes,
be
you
a
are.
cookie
Which
decorator.
is funny because I don't consider myself an artist.
You
'cause
are,
if you give me
though.
a pen or like a paintbrush, I'm like, duh.
But you,
are.
like
I can,
icing artist,
but I
girl.
can do icing. Like it's weird.
Yeah.
People ask me like, "Oh, you must have like nice penmanship." And I'm like, "No, I like scribble. Like I might, if you could see." And even like when somebody asks, "Oh, do you have any sketches to like share my cookies?" And I'm like, "Well, first of all, I don't work like that. And if you saw my sketches, you would be like,
No thanks.
you would not want a cookie from me because I cannot draw like with pen and paper to save my life. But I can do it with icing. It's weird."
That's cool. Okay, so now we're going to switch gears and we're going to dive into this week's topic. So inclusion to me simply means seeing, treating, and learning about and including everyone despite whatever differences are between us. And I believe teaching our kids about this is so important because we're all so different in so many ways. But first, can we just get your takes on what terms we should be teaching our kids when discussing differing abilities we observe around us or even those we can't see? Is there anything in particular that might be offensive? Because I feel like a lot of people might not want to approach or engage because they don't want to come off offensive and they might not be sure what to say. So is there anything, as far as special needs, able-bodied, disabled, hearing impaired, like what are the kind of things you would like to hear or not hear? Aydee, we'll get your take first.
I think sometimes using their disability to label them is not my favorite. So I once had someone describe another student to me as the wheelchair girl.
Yeah.
And I was like, whoa, you mean so-and-so who uses a wheelchair?
Right.
So I think sometimes just labeling them as the wheelchair boy or it's not I don't want to say it's not I don't want to say it's not offensive. It's not using the R word, whatever. But
yeah.
I just feel let's label the person it's Nathan who uses a wheelchair. So
right.
I never say my cerebral palsy son. No, it's my son Nathan because he's got a bunch of qualities about him
right.
that that can identify him. He happens to use a wheelchair.
Right.
So that's just how I feel. His wheelchair does not define him.
Right. And
so
that shouldn't be the lead thing that you're thinking of when you're describing or engaging with somebody.
Right. Or another thing is just not wanting to recognize them at all. So sometimes when we get that in the grocery store or at Hobby Lobby where a kid might just be curious because they might not have been exposed to somebody like Nathan. And where it's the kid wants to look or wants to, and then you get the mom shushing them don't look or
don't point, don't
and
that's all good intentions,
but I think sometimes it's okay to open up a conversation with oh hey, and so I feel I try to be the one because I see it I don't want them. I want that to not just necessarily be a learning experience, but also just to let them know they don't have to be afraid of Nathan,
right.
And just say oh look, you're wearing a Texans hat. Nathan loves the Texans. Finding that commonality between them because we're more alike than different. We
yes.
really are.
Yeah.
And the second I see Texans, Nathan lights up. You know what I mean? And he starts smiling, and then they're oh, he knows what the Texans are. You know what I mean? And so it's trying to find that commonality to make them feel oh, Nathan's just like me.
Yeah.
He just happens to use a wheelchair.
Yeah. Hayley, maybe are there anything that you would want to say about? Because if you have, if you're on this child's on the spectrum or things like that, it might not be visible,
right,
or noticeable at first. So, is there anything that you would add to that effect?
Again, my kids I'm a newbie to this scene, so
Mm-hmm.
I'm not as eloquently spoken as Aydee about it. But even so, we had something happen at the park where. Timmy loves to. So Timmy is slowly starting to speak, but he's very, very, very speech delayed. So he can do 1 to 2 word sentences, but they're very simple words. Some are just approximations, which are words that I know in Timmy language means this.
Yeah.
So I can have a full on conversation with him when someone else is he just said the same thing 3 times in a row. How are those different words? But we were at the park and he wanted to play with his ball. He wanted to play with another little boy and just kind of roll it back and forth, but he can't communicate to that little boy. And so his mother came over and was I'm so sorry. She just was really uncomfortable. And so it's kind of that, we don't play with them because we don't know how to talk to them. And so I'm a very... You can't offend me. I will be direct to you and be hey, that's not okay.
Yeah.
Let me tell you how you should go about this. So it was a great teaching moment for my neurotypical kid. So my 7-year-old who is familiar with Timmy, but sometimes doesn't understand why other kids act weird around him.
Mm-hmm.
But it's also great teaching moment for the mom and the other little
that's
boy.
what I say. The adults, like, we have to learn, and a lot of things we talk about in children's books are learning experiences for the parents just as much as the student or the kids or the students. Yeah.
So it was like, hey, it's okay. If you want to know what he said, he wants to just roll the ball back and forth with your son. They were about the same age. He doesn't have a lot of words, but he just loves to play with other little boys his age. Is that okay? Like, are you fine with that? And she was like, oh yeah, I just didn't know. Like, and she didn't know the words to use because she doesn't know. She just sees him flapping his hands because he's really excited because he sees another little boy and he's like throwing the ball at him. And it's okay. Like, so as long as if you're in that situation, like with the neurodivergent kid or the autistic kid and you're the mom, like, you have to be the advocate in every situation. And you can't be afraid because, like, they're relying on you so much, especially when they're so little, can't communicate, and you know what they want and you know what's going to bring them joy and help someone else learn about your son or your daughter.
And I feel like, a lot of parents, like, even with my son, he is about to start speech therapy, and there's a lot of, the people that, again, like, where you're familiar with, even his teacher's like, oh, well, yeah, I understand everything he says because I've taken the time to get to know him. And, or he'll talk about superhero characters. My in-laws are like, I just don't know what he's talking about because they don't recognize the things that he's trying to talk about or the things that he's into. And, as a parent, I find myself just interpreting a lot, in those conversations. And as parents, I think we naturally do that. But, you step in and say, oh, this is what he means, or this is what he's asking you, and that's just the mama bear, you gotta come out and do that. Okay, so I've heard you talk before about approachability. So how it's okay to strike up a conversation with you guys or ask questions. When teaching my own kids, I try to make it the least big of a deal as possible, right? Like, we've had to unlearn a lot of prejudices or judgmental tendencies, and maybe not even coming from a bad place, for just coming from an unfamiliar or uncomfortable place with our generation, like as parents, and those before us. But with this generation of our kiddos, like, my hope is that they're more aware and appreciative of those around us. So to them, it's simply, everyone's different, no big deal. Does that make sense? Like, not to make light of anyone's situation, but I feel that's how my kids have always treated those kinds of scenarios, which is good, I think. So can you speak a little bit more on how, as a mom, you'd like us to approach situations or discuss inclusion with our kids? Like, what's the discussion you would like to have at home?
Just that, the kind of how I said before, we're more alike than different. We super encourage the conversations of, like you said, not making light of it, but he's in a wheelchair, no big deal. He still likes to throw the ball around, which, granted, he can't physically throw, but if you toss him a ball in his lap, he is so happy, and he will try his hardest. He has spastic quadriplegic cerebral palsy, so it affects his arms, it affects his legs, it affects his whole body. And so, but he will try so hard, and you just have to be a little bit patient with him, but he will swap that ball to try to get it back on the floor or to, like, toss it to you. And it's just that he's a 15-year-old. He literally is a 15-year-old. And so sometimes when people want to, like, baby talk him or, and it's just like, okay, he's not I know he seems baby-like because he does not speak, because he's so cute.
He is,
but he is very much a teenager, and just talking to him like you would talk to.
Because even though they might be nonverbal, or the kid just might be shy, or so, you know what I mean, you have to approach it like that. Like, you can still talk and engage with them, and maybe, like you said, have patience. Try to figure out, like, what is the best way to say, oh, do you want to do this? Yeah, okay, like, and still try to engage them, because they're listening and understanding so much more than they might be able to verbally output.
Or talking about him like he's not there.
Yes.
That's
just because you can't see, like, their cognitive, like, they can still understand.
He understands everything. And so when people talk about him like he's not there, I will literally just, like, look right past you, and I'm just like, we're not having this conversation right now. Like, hello.
That's another good thing to know, like, as you're talking about this with your kids. Hayley, I imagine your take might be a little different, since cognitive abilities are not so apparent upon just looking at somebody. So in a perfect world, what does inclusion look like for your family as far as how the outside world is treating them, maybe?
I mean, kind of the same thing. Like,
Mm-hmm.
he may not act exactly like he looks like a normal little 4-year-old boy,
Mm-hmm.
but he may flop his hands. He may scream at the top of his lungs in the supermarket. And I don't need you to, like, look over your shoulder.
Oh,
and
yeah.
scowl
No, we
at
ain't
me.
got time for that. No.
Every
Judgmental people. Yeah.
Every 4-year-old screams at the
Mhm.
top of their lungs, like, just because he's flapping his arms at the same time, or jumping, or running around, or, like, saying nonsense to you. Like, you don't give me the looks. You don't know him. I think that goes for every parent.
I was
Like,
about to say,
let's
yeah.
give some all
And
the
if
parents
any,
the
and if any
grace.
parent is like, on the airplane or in the grocery with the crying child, like, please just don't be
Move along. It's
a
fine.
jerk. Yeah.
N-
I was gonna say
normal.
something else. But yeah.
But yeah, it's just being included. Like, he may not know what's going on. Like, he might be in his own little world, which is usually the case. He likes to do his certain things, but especially with my daughter, like, it's second nature to her to just include everyone. Like, let's all play together. Like,
Yeah.
I know Timmy's not going to play with us, but Timmy, do you want to come play? Like, giving him the choice.
Yeah.
Letting him know, we're thinking about you. You are more than welcome to join us. But if you don't want to, that's fine. Like, just leaving that space open for them
Yeah.
in that friendship.
Yeah, I think sometimes like that, just the mere invitation goes a long way. We used to be invited to like birthday parties, like I feel like a lot more when he was like younger, and now it's like, well, we don't know how to include him. And I ran into a mom, and she had a party, and we didn't get an invite this year, like, that year. And then I felt like it was really sitting on her conscience, because the second she saw me, it was like we didn't get to get that invitation over to Nathan. I really didn't know how to include him in the party, and a part of me thought, like, I don't know, like, I want to see it. I want to give her grace, because I feel like, well, at least like she thought about, like, gosh, how can we include Nathan in this party? But another thing you have to know is we live in a very non-wheelchair friendly world.
Yeah.
And guess what? It's like adapt and overcome. I figure out how to make things accessible for Nathan. Not everything's going to be wheelchair accessible or accessible just to Nathan. But by golly, we make it accessible to him. Going to the beach, do you think that's easy? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. But he loves the beach, and we make it fit for him because he loves it. And it's not easy. It's a lot of, like, my husband and I may be bickering back and forth, you know what I mean? But once we get there and we're settled and we're like, can take a deep breath. Oh, okay, we're here. We made it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nathan's happy. It's all good.
And I feel like that with like that mom, like, even if it's conversations or parties or events or just, whatever kind of thing, it's like you don't know how to do it, so you just don't. But I think that could shift the conversation and being like, just include y'all and let you decide as the parent.
Yes.
Or even
Okay,
reaching out,
this
like,
is doable, or hey, we might not be able to do this, activity, but maybe we'll join you afterwards for cake and presents, or just so that he will feel that he's invited and that he's included, just like every other kid wants to feel like that. I mean, and I hate that as a teacher. That was the one thing I hated. Like, I have this thing about anybody feeling left out. I just absolutely hate that. So as a parent, I know that can be.
No, it does. And so it's like, I want to be like also mature in the situation and be like, but a part of me is also like, that sucks. You know what I mean? Like, that wasn't nice.
It's
like,
not an excuse, and it's just an invitation. Like, I understand, but you could have come to me and you could have asked me about something, like an alternative that we could have done, or like just doing that reach out instead of like, no, well, we're just gonna.
Well, here's what's even so funny is that it was actually a skate party, and I'm like, my child brings his own wheels.
He's
right?
on wheels. We got this.
He brings his own.
He could have just been cruising around the rink.
This is actually his time to shine. Okay?
Yeah, right. And I'm like, okay, that's cool. But I want to not take things personal, right? But like, a part of me, like, Nathan doesn't know that he wasn't included, because obviously Nathan didn't know that he wasn't invited to this party. I know. And so, like, I want to, like, also protect his feelings and like stick up for him, but at the same time I'm like, it's just hard. It's hard because I want to be a grown up, but I get my feelings hurt too.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? For him, because I'm like, just like diss my kid.
Yeah, and I mean a lot of what we talk about, or I talk about with picture books and stuff in particular, and SEL, which is the social emotional learning, like how we have these conversations with our kids, is that we as parents are the model, and we can sit here and talk, but also if they see us do the opposite of what we're talking about, you know, actions speak louder than words. And even for her child, seeing her, oh, well, we didn't invite him, maybe that is going to turn into something else the next day on the playground, you know? And so as adults, we have to know better and do better. And, you know, having these kinds of conversations can help for sure. And I know just you guys being here today is going to be enlightening myself and so many people that listen today. But I feel like that's why we have to have this conversation and, you know, as adults, look in ourselves first, you know? Okay, so we are going to chat about our book picks now, because books really are a magical way to relate kids with a concrete character that they can see and feel react in situations that might be similar to what they're experiencing or things they've seen, and they just know they're not alone in feeling a certain type of way, and I think that's so valuable in my opinion. Hayley, we'll start with you. I think you both have a couple of books you'd like to talk about, right?
Yes.
Okay, so Hayley, what you got?
Okay, so this first one is called A Day with No Words by Tiffany Hammond. And they actually just shared this book with me, and it touched my heart. So it's about a little boy who has autism, and he is nonverbal. You can also use the term non-speaking, because some kids use noises or approximations. So it's non-speaking.
Okay.
But he also has an assistive device to help him communicate. So it's from his point of view. So it talks about what his mom's voice sounds like it's velvet, and his dad's voice sounds like the calming sea. And so it's just really cool to see from his point of view what the world looks like. And I think it touched me because, like the story I just told about the playground, there's a scene where he's at the playground and there's a conflict with another little boy and his mom. So it was just the way that his mom handled that situation that just really touched me. And again, it's all about the education of how we can all be included. And it's so beautiful, and I love it so much. So that's my first
Love
book.
That. The cover is so, I love the cover
it's beautiful.
too.
The illustration.
It's like a black matte cover, and I just love it. Yeah.
Like others have voices that are soft and smooth, like freshly whipped cream. Like I just love that.
And it's just about how how much he is inputting, even if the output doesn't match.
Correct.
You know, like we were talking about a second ago.
Exactly. So it just especially is very like it touches me so personally, because it's just
you have a love-hate relationship with like children's books that make you cry again, and you're like, okay, I love it, but
I just started crying before this podcast.
Yeah.
So that's why it sounds so nasally. Okay, and then this book, I don't know if it. I mean, me and my daughter have had lots of conversations about this book. It's called Not Quite Narwhal by Jessie Sema, and this she got like before she was born. It's about a unicorn that thinks it's a narwhal because the unicorn has a horn like the narwhal, but he feels like there's something missing in his life. So he goes on this quest to see what else is out there, and he ends up finding unicorns. So he feels like he belongs to both species. But anyway, it talks about how they're so similar but so different, and embracing those differences and just embracing everyone, and just like having those conversations like, hey, this person is a girl, doesn't have the same skin color as you. You don't even speak the same language, but you can still play tag on the playground. You both are little girls. So it's those conversations that me and my neurotypical daughter have had, because inclusion is so important to me. Has always been like one of my biggest goals, is having a kind children that include everyone and don't exclude anyone.
Right. I've told my kids that before. My daughter, especially, she's in 3rd grade. I said, look, I don't care if you fail a test, but you better be the kid on the playground that's making everyone feel like that's what I am looking for.
Absolutely.
Like, as a former teacher, I shouldn't say that, but academics will, they'll come, whatever.
Yeah.
But being a kind person is what's important.
Yes.
And I think it is important to have that conversation with our neurotypical or able-bodied kids because it's how they react and see to other kids, and not just the ones that look different, sound different, act different, but the ones that might be similar, but deep down they might have something else going on that you never even know.
And sometimes it's not even being disabled or having like a disability. Sometimes there's the kid who's painfully shy,
yes,
and sits alone because they just are painfully shy. Can you imagine never being included? Because nobody wants to.
No one approached you.
No one approaches you.
Yeah.
Like that's like if you
I
think
know,
about
it breaks my
kinda
heart.
sad.
Yeah.
It is. Okay, switching to you. Do you want to share yours?
Yes. Okay, my number 1 pick. First of all, I came with like a stack of books because
Yes, I love it.
I love books.
Me
I love
too.
children's books. You know why? Because I can read them. No kidding. My first pick is very special to me because it was written by one of Nathan's former caregivers and BFF, like life BFFs, Shay Abigail. She is a Katy area woman now. Jeez, I met her when she was in high school, so it's like hard for me to picture her like a grown-up, married. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It is about a little girl named Maya. The book is titled "My Name Is Maya," and it is about a little girl who is deaf and how her sign language is her superpower, and how she can communicate like underwater, how she can communicate.
Oh yeah.
And it's just it's such a heartwarming book, and it tells a story of not only about her and her her disability, which is deafness, but it also says like being deaf it is not sad, it's not scary, like it also just opens up the doors of like don't feel bad for me.
Yeah.
And which is like really cool to me because it's like I don't want people to feel bad for Nathan. Nathan has an incredible life.
Yes. That is the one thing. Do never apologize. Like when I say my son has autism, I'm sorry. Why are you apologizing?
Yeah.
Immediately. It's always
that's how you enrage me.
Yeah. There's nothing sad about my life.
That's
like
who they are.
Like literally, if you were to like meet like Nathan for 5 seconds, unless he's in a teenager mood. I'm kidding.
He's a ray of
but
sunshine.
he is like just joy.
Yes.
And it's my life is like not sad like at all. So I never want people to feel. And so it talks about stuff like that. Like, and it's just. And it also tells of like her superpower of, okay, my ears might not work, but my eyes, and it all, again, the inclusion, my eyes help me read the closed captioning on TV. So it's like the importance of having closed captioning.
Yeah.
My hands, help me feel the beat of music. So it's how she can still experience life
just a little
and like the
differently.
joys of life, but she uses her other senses. So this is, and again, not just because Miss Abby wrote it, but it really is like an incredible book. The illustrations in here are incredible. And then at the end, she's got like kind of some basic sign.
Oh, that's awesome.
And like the alphabet and like basic signs, and which are like I think important to know.
Yes.
I don't know a whole lot of sign. I know very, very, very few basic things. And we were sitting at the Memorial Hermann like imaging center, and there was a young adult with Down syndrome there with like, I don't think it was his caregiver. I think it was literally just like the driver of like, whatever. And he was there waiting for imaging, and he was getting like aggravated and upset, and and the woman just sit down, kept trying to get him to sit down, and he kept signing for water. And again, I knew very few signs. And he was like, and he wanted to get up to go to the water thing. And the woman was kind of like, and again, so I'm assuming it's not his caregiver, it was just like a driver. Because she's like, no, sit down. And he kept signing for water. And I got up and I got him a glass of water. I said, he's signing for water. And I handed him the water, and like he was immediately calm. And she was like, oh, like I didn't know that. Like, and I'm like, okay, well, you're his caregiver. You're currently, again,
you're with him.
Like,
he's your responsibility.
Maybe let's try to figure it out. But.
Yeah, so like, but again, things like that where it could just be perceived as like bad behavior, but I mean, he's literally communicating with sign. So I don't know. I just thought stuff like that is like.
I love that.
I do. I love that too.
I love this book,
and it's just like putting 1% of effort into something that will make someone stay.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I am sure you made his day by knowing that's what he needed.
And what a stress relief that was for him to be like, gosh, someone just understands me. Like, that's all he was fighting for, was for someone just to understand him for 1 second, for the most basic of need of water, you know?
Yeah, but also just like in things like the closed captioning in here, like a lot of people like, I mean, we all post on Instagram, but like the importance of having the closed captioning on stuff. I know, like, I'm guilty of like not always doing it, but like, so just keeping that in the forefront of like, there are people who need the closed captioning.
Yeah.
I think, like you said, like an inch of mindfulness on our part can go such a long way.
And it's not even so much, I think sometimes that like people do it out of malice, or it's just people don't know.
We just don't know.
If you don't know, like, and you're not coming from a bad place, you just don't. It's not in your world to think of like, wow, there's people who are deaf. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
If you don't live in that world.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So my next book, it's such a sweet book. It's called
so cute.
It's called You're Invited by, I'm going to say this wrong, Meredith Staggers.
Yeah, I think so.
And it is about a little girl.
It's the best book.
And the illustration on here is also like so cute.
Mm-hmm.
And it's about a little girl who wants to throw a party. And she wants to make sure everyone's invited and everyone's included. And again, this is not just about disabilities, but there is disability representation on here. There's a reference to like blindness. There's a kid who uses a wheelchair.
Mm-hmm.
There is religious differences. There's all sorts of differences. And at the end, like, they come together. And it's such a neat book because at the very end, which is what it's all about, everyone comes to her party. And like, they talks about like extreme shyness. And at the very end, it comes to, thank you, friends, for coming today. Even though we are all different, there is a seat at the table for each and every one of us. We all have something uniquely special to contribute to this party and to this world. And that, like, right there, like, every time I read that, I'm like,
yes. Because, I mean, that's really what it's all about, you know? And, like, I tell my kids all the time, like, whether we're talking about inclusion as far as, you know, abilities or race or gender or whatever it is, it's like we're all, or just opinions and strengths and weaknesses. Like, we're all so different, but that's what makes things fun and exciting and interesting, intriguing, curiosity, you know,
so boring if you're
creative.
I
say
that
all the time.
I say that all the time. When people ask me, like, when kids, because kids do ask me, like, oh, what's wrong with him? Which, again, like, they're limited vocabulary as kids, you know, whatever. And I'm like, oh, no, nothing's wrong with him. He was just made different. Yeah. You know, and I always throw in, like, you know, like, I need my glasses to see, like, you know, you have red hair, like, you know, we're all different, and we all have different likes, and I was like, can you imagine a world with people that were all the same? Yeah. That would be so boring.
It really would, you know?
And so, like, I do always try to stress that, like, we're all different, whether it's in just, you know, uniquely, I mean, just physical things that you can see, like hair color, needing glasses, whatever, but, like, also, like, in our personality, like, some of us are kind of quirky, some of us are kind of, you know.
We view things differently. Like, we have opinions on the same thing, but they're vastly different, and it's just so interesting to compare those things.
Yes.
Like, even with my daughter, we're talking about friendships. We're having a podcast on navigating friendships coming up. But it's like saying that she's embracing the different type of friendships you have, because you're not going to be best friends with everybody, because not everybody's exactly the same and not everybody jives together. But she's like, oh, well, I'm a little quirky in this and my other friend's a little quirky in that. And I said, that's awesome. She's like, yeah, it's awesome, you know, because we're all coming together and being friends and just appreciating you for who you are, you know. So I have hope for the next generation.
Especially with books like this. Can you imagine?
If we had these resources back then.
Yes. Yeah. And I feel like we had this conversation before we got started where we're just saying, like, well, these conversations didn't have, maybe there weren't as many disabled. And so there's always trying to, you know, create that excuse of, and I'm like, no, the disabled kids were there. They were just hidden away in a separate classroom. And so they like, these conversations weren't had. These books did not exist, but they've always been here. You know what I mean? Disabled people have always been here. It's just they've been kind of like hidden away, and it's like, let's like bring that
celebrate
awareness.
them for what they are contributing to the world.
I mean, can you think, like, I right now can just think of like 10 like small businesses that are owned and operated by people with disabilities.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's incredible to me. Can you imagine if like they did not have that platform to have a business to celebrate like their differences? Like, our world would be so sad.
Yeah. It's like we're living in color instead of just like black and white.
Yes.
Okay, so the book I chose is called What Can Haze Be? And it's written by Casey Smith, who is Haze's mom in real life, and it's based off of her son, who was born with a limb deficiency. And he uses a prosthetic leg to conquer his goals, dreams, and fantasies just like any other little boy his age. I love this book because, like some other inclusive characters, I've heard the term casual representation used in Kidlit before, because I think it's important for not only other kids with disabilities to see themselves in books, but also kids without, to see and hear stories that don't just focus on how we're different, but also in how we're alike too. Mm-hmm. So things we have in common, things we enjoy, things we struggle with, things we feel, see, experience around us. And I remember reading the story with my kid, my son, and at the end of the book, he's like, wow, I want to be just like Hayes, because he was focusing on, oh, Hayes wants to be a superhero, or Hayes wanted to be, this or that, and he can just totally relate to that, as any young boy, would. And that makes me feel really happy and proud that they can see past that to see the actual person, behind the disability or whatever. So with every episode, I'll be choosing at least one of the books we've discussed that pairs well with the correlating SEL resource, which is available on our Teachers Pay Teachers page, and it will be linked in the show notes along with all the books we've discussed. This week, I've created an inclusive activity called The Perfect Match, and it's a matching activity and reference guide that teaches kids about different disabilities and the adaptive tools they might see others using. I think kids are naturally curious yet mystified when seeing things like prosthetics or even language devices, and my goals for this activity is to easily and simply shed light on what they are, how they're used, because these tools are pretty awesome. All right, so we're going to wrap things up, but before we go, let's take a minute to share our hashtag Mom Win of the Week. So, because none of us are perfect parents, and we're going to celebrate what went right. So, who wants to go first?
Okay.
Hayley, I tip my hat to you.
Okay, so I want to talk about both kids because they're very different wins.
Mm-hmm.
So with Timmy, we came in with pink eye last week.
Yay.
And eye drops are a big thing. He doesn't like anything in his mouth, anything touching his face. So it's very challenging to give him eye drops. So when we started, it was real tough. My husband works offshore, so it was just like me trying to hold his hands and hold his head and open his eye and get him in there. But by the end of the weekend, he was like, eye, and he would lay down and he would open his eye and he let me do it. It blew my mind.
Yeah.
He was okay, because it's huge when you change their routine.
Oh yeah.
And this was not in the cards. But by day 3, he was like, okay, I can keep doing this for 4 more days. So that's Timmy's win.
Yay, Mom.
And then Evie's win last week. She is friends with everyone in class. Again, I try to tell her we're friends with everyone. She's super inclusive, just because we've talked about it her whole life. She's a super kind little girl, and I don't care if she flunks out of school. As long as she's a kind human, I'm winning in life. But last week, she's very good friends with a boy in class who is undiagnosed. I've interacted with the kid. He's so sweet, but he's definitely on the spectrum. Has his quirks, and no one else is friends with him in class. So last week on the playground, they were playing ninjas. Evie always plays ninjas at school, and another group wanted her to play with them, but not him. And I'm just so proud of her, because she said, no, I will not play with you unless he's coming with me. Yeah. You get me if we bring him. And it's just, that's what it's all about.
And she gets that from, I wonder who she gets that from.
Teaching her to be a
you.
little advocate is just my greatest.
And I mean, and you talk about not having pity or whatever for, your child and your family as a whole, but just think, I hear all the stories about how much richer and more inspirational and more just, she's going to go and do great things in this world because she has your son as her little sidekick, because she's been inspired, because she's been an advocate, and you see the world differently, you know, and that's just beautiful. It's beautiful.
It's not all sunshine and rainbows.
No,
They're still
but,
siblings, but for her to just be aware,
just stand up for other people,
yeah.
stand up to bullies, stand up to jerks,
and just and changing that little boy's life. Like he
Yeah.
goes home and he's like, I have a friend at school.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's what.
And I bet he goes home and talks about her like all the time.
Mm-hmm. He wrote
Yeah.
her a Valentine.
Oh.
Said thank you for being my friend.
Oh, you're gonna make me cry.
Well,
We
I've already
almost
cried
got
enough.
through this episode without crying.
School.
Yeah. Okay, and your turn.
I feel like when I get things right, I feel good about myself because I feel like, again, we're, moms, we're humans, we have feelings, and when things like don't go like in our kids' favor, or when our kids are treated like unfairly or like, less than, sometimes we just want to be moms or humans and just react. And there are times when I react, but I react like positively, or I react like in a way that's like conducive and like helps the situation versus me just blowing my top. I get proud of myself and I'm like, wow, that was very grown up of me. And I feel like I made a difference. So there was a school dance, and it was all for this special needs class, like the entire district. And again, Nathan's in a wheelchair, and it's hard for him to engage with other people without like some assistance, and he needs someone to wheel him. And so Nathan was going to go with some friends. I invited some friends to go with him who are neurotypical. One is like cool dude, senior on campus, football player, but he has a brother with special needs.
See,
and
it's just like you're talking about.
And I've known him since he was like in 3rd grade, and he is the most kind-hearted human, again, because he has the experience of having a brother with cerebral palsy. And he was he's like, oh yeah, like I'll go with him, and like he was going to be Nathan's like caregiver, right, for the night,
his wingman.
Yes, because I feel like he should have experiences outside of his parents.
Yeah.
So when I came to the district, and I'm like, hey, like I also need, and then his girlfriend was going to come as well, just like as like a kind of just a fun like little trio that they were going to be. And the district gave me some pushback saying that this event was only for special needs students. And I said, okay, cool. But my son needs
a caregiver.
He needs a caregiver. And they're like, well, you're more than welcome to come. Parents come. I said, you know what? My kid doesn't have a lot of opportunities to have experiences outside of his parents. And I think this is like pretty age appropriate and school appropriate for him to have this experience outside of his parents, because it is a school dance. Right. He should be able to go with like whatever. A lot of pushback, a lot of like whatever, a lot of emails back and forth. Finally, last minute,
you wore them down.
I wore them down.
Yay.
And they went, and the 3 of them went to the to the school dance. They had the most incredible night. Afterward, I had 3 staff come to me and say, oh my gosh, Nathan had a blast. And so, I mean, we went, my husband went, dropped Nathan off, and just sat in the parking lot. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because obviously in case like he, needed a diaper change or like whatever. So like we were there, but like we wanted him to have that experience without us. And so, we had 3 staff come up to us after, and we're like, oh my God, Nathan had a blast. Like Nathan, like whatever, Connor like so helped him like engage with the other students and like dance and get on the floor, and like they were so great with him. And it opened the conversation of how can we make these school dances better?
Yeah.
More
of these kind of opportunities.
But how can we make it, more of the opportunities to have the, like non-disabled, having them have like a non-disabled buddy.
Because it will enrich their life as well.
Yes, for sure.
And it won't segregate again. Mm-hmm. Like, I understand what they were trying to do, but like, have it more inclusive. Inclusive, yes. So like, just that it opened up the conversations of, okay, so how can we make the next dance better? Mm-hmm. And like, how can we make it more inclusive? That to me was like,
and maybe at the next dance, all the other students might have peer assistance instead of
having to have like a parent there, because like it's not like that doesn't make it a school, and that
they're still teenagers.
Yeah,
they don't want their parents.
I was about to say every 15-year-old their world revolves around peer relationships.
I have
and,
shown up to Nathan's school unannounced if I needed to drop something off or if I needed to whatever. And Nathan will use his device to look me straight in the eye and say, bye.
Yeah.
Because I am embarrassing. I'm his mom. Like, he does not want his mom at his school.
Yeah.
Gross. How cringe.
Total cringe.
And so he will literally look me dead in the eye, use his device to say bye.
Mom's giving me the ick right now.
Yeah.
Major. Because I'm his mom. And how
Yeah.
embarrassing. Can you imagine you roll up to a school dance with your mom?
I mean, even my daughter, like 3rd grade, I'd like try to fix her hair. My mom, stop touching me. Like, don't touch me in public. Like, don't mess with my hair. I'm like, you got like something on your face. Let me spit on my finger and get it off. And she's like, oh, I'm mortified. But I love that. Okay, so we're going to first give yourselves a little shout out for each of your businesses before we go. So we have the Sugar Berry Cookie Lady in the house. Can you tell us just a little bit about your food network? Because I know I referenced it and people were like, what are you talking about? Let me go Google that and find out your episode. But tell us a little bit about Sugar Berry and your food network. Celebrity appearance.
I am the go-to cookie lady. No, I just like making cookies. It started off with wanting to make cute gifts for all of Nathan's people because he's got a bazillion people, a billion office visits, and I went to a cookie decorating class, and then it just turned into, oh my gosh, this would be cute little gifts.
So, like, what year was that? Like, how long have you been?
I took a cookie decorating class in 2018.
Because I was going to say, I would say that you're very experience level, like expert level cookie decorating. So how long did it take you to like get there? Like if you see your cookies, they're amazing.
Well, I thank you. I started, even when I started my business in 2020, I look back at my first like few orders and I was like, how embarrassing.
Cringe. Hashtag cringe.
Hashtag cringe. But obviously, I mean, I decorate cookies like every day. I hope I get better.
Yeah.
I hope I've gotten better. And so, but literally it just started with wanting to make gifts and cute gift boxes for all of Nathan's people. And then it just morphed into 2020 pandemic times, being home. I made a Cinco de Mayo set. And this is how you want to talk about hot mess. I made a Cinco de Mayo set. Someone offered me money for it. I told my husband not to eat them because somebody had offered me money. Literally 3 days later, May 8th, I took off my Cheeto crusted shirt, brushed my hair for the first time in months because I was like living my like biggest pandemic life. And I just said I'm going to start a business. So literally 3 days later, I was like, I can start a business. I had no clue what I was doing.
And then fast forward to Christmas 2023.
Yeah, well, I was holding on to this secret for almost a year.
Really?
Yeah, they reached out to me like I think it was February 2023, and they said, "Hey, we came across your Instagram. Would you like to talk to a producer to compete on a show?" And at first, I thought it was like, a scam. And I'm like, what do I have to show?
Yeah. Do you want my OnlyFans or my Sugar Berry?
I know. And then it just turned into, it was real. They interviewed me, and next thing you know, June we filmed, and then our episode aired in Christmas time.
What's the title of the show?
It's the Christmas Cookie Challenge. I'm episode Out of This World, which is all space themed.
I'm kind of, you could have done like a Blue and Rose Blast Off cookie. I'm just saying.
Oh my gosh, what a dork! I should have.
No, she has done. We've collaborated in the past for raffles and auction items and baskets and things like that. So you've done the cutest little rocket star set and decorate your own. So the kids get to go home and decorate it with the icing and the sprinkles and all that. So
it's like read the book and then you decorate the cookies.
Yeah. And we threw in some Space City snacks.
Sure did.
Leeway on the other side. Tell us about Space City snacks.
I think a lot of our businesses came out of the pandemic.
I was less productive during the pandemic. I'll just say that.
I was a mom that had young kids at home. My husband, like I said, works offshore, so he's gone for a month at a time. So I just felt like I was kind of losing myself. I didn't have anything that was like me outside of mom.
Yeah.
And my son loved those freeze-dried yogurt melts. Like he would eat bags and bags. And I was like, I'm one of those moms that I can make my own baby food. Like, let me try and make these yogurt melts. And after researching for 5 seconds, you have to have like this fancy newfangled freeze dryer. So it just kind of led from there. We talked about it. We invested in one. We threw everything we ate in it to see what would happen.
Because once you invest in it, you're like, okay, now we got to get our money's worth out of this thing.
Yes, exactly. And I would just like, for shits and giggles, we would just put everything like on social media, like our findings of like, hey, this is what happened when we put Skittles in there. This is what happened when we put pizza in there. And people, you haven't had my pizza? My pizza's so good, girl.
I've never even heard of that.
I haven't seen the pizza.
Yes, Pizza the Hut crackers.
I've seen the crackers, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's what it is. It's freeze-dried thin crust pizza.
Oh my God, I didn't realize that's what the crackers were.
Yes, it's actual pizza. So yeah, people would message me like, what does it taste like? And I would describe it, and they're like, oh my God, can I have some?
I'm sure you didn't just describe it. You would use your Hayley power.
That's what I was talking about earlier.
Words.
But anyway, so long story short, that's how Space City started. And we will be turning 3 on March 9th.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I think when people hear freeze dried, the first thing they think of is like the little astronaut food, like the little bag of whatever you get from like
crumbles.
the NASA museum. Yeah, so not that satisfying. But I think, like I said, I'm a words girl. I appreciate that, and like hearing you describe it, seeing your titles, I'm like, that is so witty. I love that. And you have so many things. Like I think I have a lot of favorites, but I think the favorite that I've tried is the banana pudding bites.
Yes.
So it's got like a vanilla wafer and then like a little banana
little
pudding.
Square of freeze-dried vanilla pudding with a freeze-dried banana.
And I'm telling you, the pudding, because it's crunchy, you bite into it. It's such like a multi-sensory thing. You're like, wait, what? Mm-hmm. Like what just happened in my mouth? And it's like you bite into the pudding, I think especially, and it just like melts back into your mouth. And you're like, oh my God, it's so good.
I think another facet of it is...
So you have sweet and salty stuff. I mean, just...
Yeah. It's just, again, it's all about the inclusivity. So like, people with braces that can't have Jolly Ranchers. Mm-hmm. When they are freeze-dried, they become enormous.
Yeah.
But they're soft, and you can bite them without like getting it stuck in your braces. Kids with sensory issues, which is where we followed it. Like, hey, you don't want regular green beans? Let's have freeze-dried green beans. And he eats like 3 pounds of green beans in a sitting. Like, so it's just everybody can use it as a way to taste your favorite foods in a whole new way. If a banana, or my favorite example is blueberries are one of those hot trigger items, especially for kids with like autism or sensory sensitivity, because you can get a tart blueberry, a squishy blueberry, a crunchy blueberry.
Oh, so they're not the same every time. You don't know what to expect.
No one likes blueberries because you don't know what you're going to get.
So it's not like a box of chocolates. It's like your container of blueberries.
Yes.
Whoa.
But when you freeze dry them, they're all the same texture. Bananas are my thing. Like, I can't eat raw regular bananas because they're either
smushy,
too mushy or too, like, I don't know, yuck. But when they're freeze dried, they're all crispy. They all have the same flavor. There's consistency.
I think that's what I love about them. Like, the flavors are all there. It's just your brain is like, wait, I thought I was biting into this, but like it feels like this, but it tastes something else.
Yes.
And cool. Nathan has definitely taken some Space City snacks to therapy with him because he is like a puree consistency. Like, so we make all his food, his oatmeal, everything is just in a kind of puree consistency. Mm-hmm. But he can do like a Cheeto puff or like those kind of things that like crunch, but they kind of like melt.
Yeah.
And so he's taken, so that, like you said, the inclusivity, he's had the opportunity to have
asparagus.
Like the candy stuff, where he doesn't eat really candy, but just to try the different flavors, but in a form that he can eat them.
Yeah.
One of my favorites too, just thinking about the flavor wise, was the I don't think you call it like the Scott McStuffin or something, like during Thanksgiving you had like your family's recipe of stuffing.
Scott's
is it cornbread?
Is it
cornbread stuffing?
It's a cornbread stuffing, yeah.
But then it's like a freeze-dried cube of stuffing, and you put it in your mouth, and you taste everything that's in a stuffing, but it's crunchy, and you're like, oh my gosh, I can eat this every day. But I don't have to wait for Thanksgiving just to eat that, you know?
Yeah, Thanksgiving in a bite. That's funny.
Mm-hmm.
Crunchy bite.
All right, now we're hungry, so we're going to go. But yes, I think that's it for this week's episode. Thank you, ladies, again for joining us, and thank you guys for listening. I hope you've gained a couple of helpful nuggets for guiding your kids or students through the beauty of inclusive spaces for everyone. And we'll see you guys next time on the Blooming Books podcast. Thank you, guys.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you for listening to the Blooming Books podcast, recorded and produced by Blooming Rose Kids. We've opted to keep our series ad-free, and if you'd like to support our efforts, please consider shopping our own custom-signed Blooming Rose books at bloomingrosekids.com and our academic materials on our Teachers Pay Teachers page. All of the books mentioned in this episode are also available via our affiliate links in the show notes. We so appreciate you being here and hope to see you next time.